that's me right now. I'm back here with Ace Attorney Duel Destinies. Just a few notes before we carry on. Number one, we're going to be playing with Apollo for this bit, and playing as Apollo for this bit. And it appears as though we're just going to be straight into a court sequence, which is awesome as far as I'm concerned, because as many court sequences as we can put between me and the first three of this case is the better. But two other notes. I think it was yesterday they announced the Apollo Justice trilogy, featuring 3 games, one of which you play as Apollo Justice in. I know he's present in the other 2. Anyway, which is funny for a few reasons, not the least of which because this is yet another game that I started playing and then like a week later they made a remaster for it. Added to the ranks of like Dragon Quest 3 and like Persona. Well, they still haven't redone a piece of Persona 1, which is the only one I played, but Harvest Moon, Wonderful Life, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, and Metal Gear Solid 3 I recently included in a poll before they announced the remake of that. Anyway, I'm just cursed is the point. But it's also funny because I had the chance to see some renewed slander of this game online, which was really funny because I'm in the middle of playing it. I have given understand a lot of people don't care for this one quite so much. And so far, you know what, I haven't really minded it too much. Like, most of the problems I had with it so far, I chalk up to flukes. Because it was like it was always a series of misunderstandings. Well, most of my problems with it were like a series of misunderstandings that I made that not everyone would necessarily make, so I can't really hold it against it. Anyway, I glossed over the ending of the last trial a bit, because it did kind of come to a close rather quickly, but there was a hugely interesting development with Athena. It seemed to me like she was maybe starting to have some kind of panic attack at the bench. And since we know that she has some kind of PTSD is maybe a bit strong, but some kind of traumatic event in her past that she finds very difficult to bring up. Like every time she thinks about it, she sort of seizes up and finds it difficult to breathe. I wonder if maybe that's what got her interested in studying psychology. Because it's very often that people say, like, you know, if you have like a weak immune system and you get sick a lot, often those are the people who go on to become like doctors and pharmacologists and stuff like that. Whether or not that's actually true, you know, who knows? But that's the thing that people say quite a bit. And it's super cool that I like that they used Robin and Hugh, and not just Juniper, whom she had a previously established relationship with. Her new relationship that she formed with them through basically helping them sort of come to grips with their own lies and essentially saving them and Juniper. I like that her actions there directly contributed to them then coming back around and saving her and sort of supporting her. So when that happened, you didn't feel like, well, I guess they just picked the 3 nearest characters to give her some words of encouragement because she needed some help or whatever. It felt very much like poetically just that in the structure of the narrative, those people that she helped come to grips with themselves are now returning the favor, so to speak. Anyway, so it was just a cool way that trial ended up for that reason. But here we are with Apollo and the trial of his dead buddy. What was his name? Clay Terran. Looks a bit like a mix of Phoenix and Apollo, actually. He's got like the facial structure of Phoenix with the sort of brighter eyes of Apollo. Anyway, since one of them, he and someone else was there in an astronaut suit, I guess there's gonna be a lot of mistaken identity in this case, is what I'm guessing. It's gonna be like, oh, I bet that you were in the astronaut suit. No, it was me! Time for another trial to begin. This one's different. Sorry to bother you, but... Are you alright, Apollo? Was I making a scary face just now? Right, so this is presumably the case. Well, actually, I'm already all bandaged up, which is weird. According to the save screen. Oh, did they already tell me when this takes place? December 16th. Crap, when was the first one? It was sometime in December. I guess this must be after that. So is this like we're going to resume the case that he was doing before he got exploded? Oh, hi, Juniper. Yes, I'm fine. I was just doing my Cords of Steel exercises. No, I'm all ready to go. Yes, knowing you, I'm sure you'll be just fine. Oh, I brought you a present from my garden. Hey, your hair and stuff changed a lot since we saw you in April or whenever it was. Or it was late in June. Is this a lotus root? That's right. My grandma says lotus root is good for your eyes. She even says that if you look through the holes, it can help you see into the future. Wait. I distinctly remember her saying that she gave Apollo a lotus root in the first case. So this must be just before that then. This must be the case where where she was in the gallery of. So I was already exploded before this one exploded again? Wait, what happened? It's for good luck. Maybe later you can cook it. And thanks for this! I'm gonna have some right now! Oh my. Kinda tough though. You can't eat it raw. But, Thank you for the enthusiastic try. Oops. If she didn't think me weird before, she will now. I've gotta calm down. Apollo! Sorry I'm late. I came in now with weird energy. Athena! Junie! Oh, I didn't know you were coming today. Did you come to cheer Apollo on? Oh, I get it. Hey, you sly little thing, you. Athena, stop. Quit kidding around, Athena. The trial's about to start any second. Is everything all set? Oh, Apollo, Apollo. When will you ever figure it out? Figure out what? Wow, that was the longest sigh I've ever heard. Oh, that was a sigh? This is it. It's all over for me. This looks a little bit like Larry, doesn't it? Or is it my imagination? They're gonna find me guilty. If it is Larry, I'll have to change the voice in a moment. This is our client, one Mr. Solomon Saul Starbuck. Never mind, doesn't look so hilarious. Saul is in the name of our son. He's a very famous astronaut who happens to be an acquaintance of mine. You wouldn't know it right now, but he's usually a very upbeat and driven person. The scene of the crime this time happened to be the Cosmos Space Center. Cosmos Space Center. Gigs! Back in high school, my best friend and I were there almost a little too much. Went there, even. But that's where we met Mr. Starbuck. We'd ask about space travel, and he'd launch into story after story with so much passion. Back in those days, the man was 100% my hero. You sure you're okay with being my lawyer, Apollo? Of course I'm sure. I know you, Mr. Starbuck. I know you're not the type to commit murder. Thanks, but... I was supposed to be in space right about now. He's so depressed it almost seems like an act. The launch getting called off must have been a huge shock. I'll probably never get the chance to go into space again. Don't say that! Don't stop believing! Besides, you just have to go into space again. Yeah. I don't think I could face Clay in the afterlife if I just rotted away in a cell. Has this person been added to our thing? Oh my god, we've got Juniper's been added too. Athena's childhood friend, talented singer, and student council president. She's starting to be a judge. Okay, so Apollo wouldn't know that if it wasn't right. Okay, so this is right before the first case. Gotcha. Solomon Starbuck, the defendant in this case, is 33. 33? You've got time, man, to go into space again. He was a Hat 2 crew member and a mentor to the victim. Clay Terran. I can't believe he was murdered. I mean, he was such a promising astronaut under your command. Yeah, he was a good guy. Always there to pick me up when I was down. No one loved life as much as him, that's for sure. He was always so full of energy telling me, "You're fine, Mr. Starbuck." How could something like this happen to a guy like him, huh? I've never seen Mr. Starbuck so down. Clay's gone and I'm going to prison. I wish I could burn up like a shooting star right now. Mr. Starbuck, you'll be fine! What is it? What's with the yelling? I'll get to the bottom of this today. You'll see. And in exchange, I want you to go back into space for you and Clay. Promise? Does that mean you have lots of evidence to prove my innocence? I've got my badge. Oh! Well, about that, we didn't get to investigate the area as much as I'd have liked, thanks to the police. I'm done for. I'm a goner. Everybody thinks I did it. Thought I was gonna soar like a comet, but I'm just gonna crash like a meteorite. No, don't say that, Mr. Starbuck. Don't count yourself out yet. I know it's hard to lose a teammate, but you've got to keep going. And what about you, Apollo? What about me? I was just thinking, wasn't Clay your best friend? Also, I know it's hard to lose a teammate, he says, like a week before dipping out of the Wright and Cola offices. So I wonder if this trial is going to end in the bomb. And we're not going to get like a satisfying resolution to it. That would be really interesting. We need to focus on the trial right now. Are you all ready to go? Apollo. The trial's about to begin. If the defense... Sorry, let me say words that actually exist. The trial's about to begin. If the defense would please proceed into the courtroom. Okay, here we go. This is it. This is one trial I can't afford to lose. This would be only Athena's second time third time in court, right? First as a secondary on Ninetales Vale. Second as a primary on the one we just did, Themis Eagle Academy, and then this one time, I think. For Clay's sake and our clients, I will find Clay's killer. I believe in you, Apollo. I don't necessarily believe in me to not lose now that I'm not playing as Athena anymore, as she was our good luck charm, but I'm gonna do my best to keep our winning streak of the last case up. We did overall pretty well in that one. December 16th, 9:55 a.m. District Court, courtroom number 4. Let's get into it. I'm happy to have another court section so soon. I was a little worried we were going to have a really lengthy investigation going on at the Space Center, which we're probably going to get at least one investigation after this, but I'm glad we get to go in first with to the courtroom. That's cool. It doesn't happen too often. Court is now in session for the trial of Solomon Starbuck. The defense is ready, Your Honor. So I'm not all bandaged everywhere, but I've got just an eye patch at the moment. So I was injured by something else in between Themis Legal Academy and this one. Excuse me, Mr. Justice. Yes, Your Honor? What happened to your eye? I'm fine! The defense is ready, Your Honor! Are you sure? I don't... I'm fine, Your Honor! The defense is ready! I'm sorry, Your Honor. He's been like this since yesterday. He keeps insisting it's just a sty. I suppose it's something he doesn't want to discuss. Maybe he's entering a touchy age. Very well, and the prosecution? The prosecution appears to be ready as well. Silence! Silence! Not yet. I'm not quite ready yet. Come on, right before it started. Go. And there's, what the hell? The bomb transport case. The prosecution is now ready. Well, it did may take him long this time. What's up with Blackwell? So I'm reckoning now that this won't be the last case. There's got to be one that comes after all this that ties them all together. So presumably this is the second last case. And then there's going to be one at the end that takes place after Apollo ditches them. Athena and Phoenix are going to be like working on a case together, and then Apollo's going to bust into the last second. Something cool like that's going to happen. Now then, I shall give the opening statement. Silence. Silence. I'll do it. You will? What an unexpected surprise! This time, I can't leave it to anyone else. Oh dear. There is really something up with him. This is very strange. I see. Something is off with the two of you today. Yeah, really off. What the hell is going on? You both seem different somehow. Wonder if something happened. Does Blackwell get hurt in the bombing maybe? Because he's not the prosecutor on the next December case. That's pain. Very well, Prosecutor Blackwell. Your opening statement, if you would. It was just yesterday. The crimes in question occurred at the Cosmos Space Center. Oh, that famous federal research facility of all things related to astrology, right? Astronomy. It's astronomy. Anyway, a rocket was set to launch from there. But at 9:28 a.m., before they could even move the rocket to the launch site, two explosive devices were detonated, and the launch was cancelled. Is it just me, or does he only have, like, the eyeliner under one eye? It does look a little different somehow. Prosecutor and prison inmate. He can manipulate witnesses through power of suggestion. Allegedly. All I've seen is him whining until he gets his way. Two explosive devices, you say? My word! 2 bombs! How dreadful. So bombs are a running theme here. The defendant in today's trial is charged with both the bombing and with murder. One Mr. Solomon Starbuck. For whatever inane reason, he detonated a bomb on the rocket and he himself would be in. Solomon Starbuck? I recognize that name. Isn't he that famous astronaut? Correct, your boldness. Mr. Starbuck was the pilot of the Hat 1 rocket 7 years ago. So Starbuck obviously first made of the P-Quad. So I imagine there's some relevance there. And also Star. We've got the sun reference with Sol, and the star reference with Star. And then maybe a Moby Dick reference with Starbuck. And I'm not too familiar with the story of King Solomon, to be honest with you, so there may be references there going on as well. Correct your boldness. Mr. Starbuck was the pilot of the Hat 1 rocket 7 years ago. As you may recall, despite some interstellar trouble, the mission was a success. Some say it was a miracle he returned alive. I suppose you could say he's a living legend. Oh, I remember now. He's become something of an international celebrity, right? Wow, mankind's hope of the future. I've got to make it back alive. Not the most inspiring catchphrase. The Hat One Miracle. A moving and thrilling documentary in 3D. Come along on a captivating space odyssey that will take your breath away. I feel like that 3D bit's gonna be important. They even turned that into a movie and everything. We've got a real space pioneer in our corps today. But even heroes tumble from their lofty heights. Returning to the subject at hand. At least he detonated the bomb in the place he was going to be in. That's unlikely, therefore it should be easy to disprove at some point. Ah, yes. The victim was one Mr. Clay Terran, a subordinate of the defendant. Indeed. A loyal disciple brutally stabbed to death by his mentor. Stabbed to death, you say? You mean his death wasn't a result of the bombing? Correct. Despite his lofty dreams, the victim was seen as an interloper by the defendant. And so he was sent not into space, but to the universe which we mortals cannot see. Well, we can't always see space either. Clay. I think I've heard enough. The case seems pretty clear-cut at this point. However, there is one thing I'm curious about. That metal box near the next to the witness stand. One of the bombs was disarmed and brought here, I guess is the idea. What purpose does it serve exactly? Since you asked so nicely, it's your coffin. Ah! Have mercy on me! I jest. It's evidence. Due to its... I think he wasn't expecting that to have quite an intense effect. Due to its immense size, with little choice but to lay it where it rests now. We shall get to the contents of the box in due time. I feel like I just lost 50 years off my life. Does he even have 50 years left? Inner monologue, Athena. Inner monologue. Enough jabbering. Ha! Bobby Fulbright's the name. In justice we trust. Ah, Detective Fulbright. Very well then, please explain the details of this incident to the court, if you would. On it, first take a look at this pamphlet as from the Cosmos Space Center. In it you'll find a diagram outlining the overall layout of the Space Center. Oh dear, that's a lot of floors. Launchpad 1 Space Museum, 7 floors. So this is like the visitor center, the launchpad, and then who knows what all that stuff is, control rooms and stuff. Universe Kiaxa, 21st century. Let's go to Jupiter. Let's not. Yeah, here we are. For a more detailed look at what's on the left side of this building. Oh, yes. Take a look at this cross-section that we, the police, have created. There's a ladder between the upper level and middle level, an elevator to the lower level. I guess this is... Wait, what? Oh, the elevator's here. The elevator also goes up here, I guess. It's just saying that there's an elevator going down into the lower level as well. So that's all... You can't see the lower level from anywhere else, basically. Is it really safe to have a place where people stand right next to, like, the rocket part of the rocket? Like, even if there's a wall. Anyway, I don't know anything about space. Or the launches thereof. Launchpad 1 corridor, lounge. What is with... 6th floor, 5th floor, 4th floor, 3rd floor, 2nd floor, 1st floor, Azazel's birthmark, and then B1. Shelter. Huh. See the launch pad in the main building? I'm the judge. The launch pad is the square building and the rounded structure is the main building, right? You got it. The incidents took place in launch pad 1 and in the main building's lounge. I should have looked at that much more carefully to see what he was talking about just then. He'll give it to us in a moment, though. I'll be using this diagram during my testimony. I'll make it easier to understand. Thank you very much. Both of them, if you would. Witness. Test. Testimony. Details of the case. Sorry. The incident occurred in Launchpad 1 and the lounge, so like this area. The stabbing, I mean, the incident is a euphemism for the stabbing, yes? Oh, Launchpad 1 and the main building's lounge. Right, okay, no, okay, I see what he's saying. Bomb went off, kaboom here. Stabbing happened, kaboom, kaslam here. Kastab here. Kerstab. Alright, let's get into this first testimony. Hell yeah, so ready. Just before the rocket was set to launch, 2 bombs went off. Boom! Boom! One on the 2nd floor of the Space Center's main building, and one in Launchpad 5. Oh, is that right? Launchpad 5, sorry, Launchpad 1. Thankfully, only the 2 astronauts were in Launchpad 1 at the time. The 2 of them managed to make it back as far as the boarding lounge. But after the escape, one of the 2 was found stabbed to death. So how do you know the stabbing happened in the lounge? A murder on top of a bombing. Detective, the victim was already dead by the time you arrived at the lounge, correct? Yep. thinking he'd sabotage the bombing. The defendant attacked and killed the victim. Just look at this tragic photo. Ouch. Oh my! Is that a knife in the victim's chest? Looks that way to me. Nearly smack dab in the center. There's obviously something interesting about whatever this is. And as far as his outfit, I guess it's interesting that the helmet was off, but nothing else. He's missing one glove. His left glove. Got the... Sorry, no. He's missing the right glove. Got the left glove still on. That's weird. I can understand maybe the police take the helmet off so that you verify it's the dude when you take a picture. I think he's got a visor. But there would be no reason to take the glove off, so that's interesting. Yes, Your Honor, it's the knife that cruelly ended this young man's dreams. We couldn't get any prints of it, though, because the defendant was in his spacesuit. Utility knife added to the court record. The victim's blood was found on the display, but no fingerprints could be lifted. Very interesting indeed. Fingerprints are going to be especially key if people were in and out of suits and wearing gloves or not wearing gloves. By the way, Detective Fulbright, why are the victim's helmet and right glove absent in this photograph? We had to remove them to identify him, Your Honor. Why'd you have to remove his glove? I personally removed his glove during the investigation. We had to get his fingerprints to confirm his identity, after all. Interesting. Yes, it would be very difficult to identify him without a face or fingerprints. Now, there's just one more thing I'd like to inquire about. I don't think you'd need to get both. What is this round thing next to the victim in the photo? Yes, I'm also interested in this. Something so important to the victim, he took it with him as he escaped the launch pad. A capsule that apparently contains asteroid samples. While obviously valuable for research purposes, it has no relation to this case. Every time you say that, a little part of me snickers. I see. So, we know that the bomb in the main building was on the 2nd floor. But where was the bomb that was in the launch pad 1 located? That one was on the rocket itself. It was situated around the central part of the rocket. Apparently the area around the launch pad's elevator was a sea of flames. Interesting. I would assume the biggest fuel reserves would be down here where like the part that falls off is. So would you not want to put the bomb down there? I suppose there's plenty of fuel all in the whole thing. Well, I guess I don't know that this is like a shuttle that would break apart. I don't know the difference necessarily just by looking. I would like to submit this diagram and report into the record. Please. Explosion sparked a fire on the 2nd floor of the main building and the middle level of the launch pad near the elevator. Most curious. The trials have started and we're already in a bind. You get used to it. Besides, that's what cross-examination is for, right? What the 2 astronauts were doing during the bombing, that'll be the key. Yes, I'm also interested, because apparently only when they got to the lounge did our supposed killer decide that it was time to stab him, which is ridiculous, because that would make it... The longer you waited, the harder it would be to pretend that you didn't do it, because you'd be getting closer to other people. We've only got 1 page of evidence so far, very interesting. The explosion sparked fire on the 2nd floor of the main building in the middle level of the launch pad near the elevator. So definitely some pressing is required here. I especially want to know what this 1st floor mark is, though. Later. Hold it! How powerful were the explosions? Well, the one in the main building wasn't strong enough to bring the place down, but the room it went off in was burned black. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. Due in large part, of course, to me stepping up to lead the evacuation. Why were you there? Wait, what were you even doing there in the first place, Detective Fulbright? I'm Bobby Fulbright, hero of justice. I'll be there wherever and whenever people need my help. I'd go to the other side of the world or even the edge of the universe. I'm not sure he knows how far that actually is, but I guess I'll leave that one alone. Admirable decision, Justice Dono. How did you hear my thoughts? Huh? What did he decide? Anyway, could you describe what it was like at the Space Center at that time? The bomb cut the power to the central bank of the elevators in the 3rd floor lounge. It was pitch black in there, I tell you. However, the security cameras and whatnot were running on the emergency backup. And how did the evacuation go? I immediately and heroically whisked people down to the Space Center's basement shelter. The basement shelter? Yes, there's an emergency shelter beneath the Space Center. An emergency shelter, huh? Ah, here it is. It's at the bottom of the diagram. I noticed this also. What for exactly? I guess if a launch went awry. The Space Center is pretty impressive to have its own shelter. Evacuation report added to the court record. The bombs went off despite tight security. Police officers and riot police who had been standing by gave the evacuation instructions. Oh, they were just standing by. Okay. I thought they were just saying don't worry about why the police were there, because it's a gag. But no, there were police standing by for some reason already there, so that might actually be important later. Police officers and riot police gave evacuation instructions immediately. There was a power outage. That's sort of suspicious. There was a power outage and the affected areas remained dark. The security system switched over to emergency power and continued to work. Evacuees moved to the basement shelter. The photograph doesn't look very dark, so I guess the power was back on by that time. That means there was some considerable time between when he was stabbed and when you got there, right? Not to mention, we don't even have any time estimations for the time of death. That's very concerning. Anyway, time to keep pressing anyway. The power outage and evacuation seem unrelated to the murder at this point. I guess I'll leave that aside for now. So there were 2 explosions in total, correct? Yep, that's right. One on the 2nd floor of the Space Center's main building and one on Launch Pad 1. And how far along apart were they in time? Did they happen at the exact same time, a minute apart? Hold it! Let me get this straight. Mr. Starbuck rigged a rocket he was going to board with explosives. Huh? What are you talking about? If the defendant really did plant the bomb on his own rocket, he'd get caught in the explosion as well? Oh, I hadn't thought of that. I thought we brought that up already. Fine, a simpleton for a simpleton. Fulbright, the motive... understood. The defendant actually had astrophobia. What? Astrophobia? What's that? A fear of space? A fear of space, naturally. Just the thought of space can cause the afflicted to freeze up. And so in his terror, the defendant found a way to stop the launch at the last minute. It's pretty hard to rig a bomb at the last minute, wouldn't you think? That's absurd! Unfortunately for you, we have evidence. Take a look at these. What are they? These anti-anxiety tablets were found among the defendant's possessions. That's not got anything to do with proof that he was able to procure a bomb at the last second. Apparently he was taking them in secret to quell his fears. There were a multitude of problems with the rocket Mr. Starbuck rode 7 years ago. Rumor has it threatened to crash a number of times as well. That was, of course, very traumatic for Mr. Starbuck. Objection! But that doesn't mean he'd go so far as to blow up his own ship. Silence! The defendant couldn't bear to mar his good name now, could he? No, not after the media had branded him Sol Starbuck, space pioneer extraordinaire. Given these conditions, the defendant could hardly run away like some base mutt. What, so that's why you think he resorted to the bombing? Naturally. He constructed this act of sabotage in an attempt to blow up the Space Center, which would effectively abort the launch, but spare his reputation. Now I'm sure you understand why we have to bring justice down on this atrocious criminal. Yeah, but you said it was a last-minute decision. Nevertheless, even if it wasn't, there would be no reason to put a bomb on the rocket. You could just put a bomb on the 2nd floor, and a bomb going off anywhere near the station would be cause for delaying the mission. And how precisely did he think that Clay was going to sabotage the bombing? Thankfully, only the 2 astronauts were in Launch Pad 1 at the time. Hold it! Are you sure it was only the 2 of them? It was just before the spaceship was set to launch, so of course it was only those two. Now, I'm reckoning since we got bits of advice, oh, we didn't actually get the pills as evidence. Interesting. Since we got a piece of evidence from pushing, though, that suggests to me that there's not going to be a contradiction I have to get here. I'm just going to have to push a bunch to get some evidence, because if otherwise you could miss the evidence and proceed without it, which would be, you know, horribly sequence breaking and you wouldn't be able to win. It was just before the spaceship was set to launch, so of course it was only those 2. Well, there could have been somebody else inside that rocket, and also the police evacuating immediately. I guess they're just talking about this area. There was no one on the 2nd floor either? That's also weird. Silence! The notion of a third party in Launch Pad 1 is utterly absurd. Just to enter the area from the lounge, one must pass through a door guarded by a fingerprint recognition device. And allow me to state up front that there are precious few with the clearance to do so. A fingerprint recognition device? It sounds as futuristic and complex as a space center. Actually, it's not amazing. Actually, it's not as amazing as you think, Your Honor. Take a look at this photo. This is the door in the lounge with the fingerprint lock. Only personnel whose fingerprints are registered can pass through. I see. That is very different from what I had in mind. And is there a record of the number of people that passed through that door yesterday? Yes, there were only 3. The defendant, the victim, and... the director of the Space Center, Yuri Cosmos. Then doesn't that mean it's possible that the director is the one who did it? Not a chance. He was in the main building when the bombs exploded at 9:28. Okay, and Starbuck was in the launch pad when a bomb detonated in the main building. What's your point? Doing his job directing the launch. Besides having an alibi, he has no motive for committing these senseless acts. Besides having an alibi, horseplop. Fine. Starbuck has an alibi. He wasn't in the main building when the main building bombed. You'd have to be in 2 places at once. Your point makes absolutely no sense. He has a point. I guess the director can't be considered a suspect then. Launchpad 1 door. Why not? Launchpad 1 door lock added to the court record. Obviously, if we're saying that Starbuck did it, then he detonated them remotely. So whoever did it can detonate it remotely is then what we're saying. A biometric door lock operated by fingerprint recognition. Only the defendant, the victim, and the Space Center director had access. And these yellow lines look to be similar to the ones on display here, although there's a curve there, like an elbow. So where does that place it? Well, we don't have a picture really, a closer picture to go off of just to find where that elbow might be, to place where exactly they were in the room. Only the Prince of Director, Cosmo, Starbuck, and Terran are authorized. An independent security company manages the usage records. Interesting. Backup power allows it to function even when the power goes out. All right. Does that go for the lights in the room as well? Attempts to use print recognition are also recorded by a security camera. And can I hear about some of them? The two managed to make it back as far as the boarding lounge. Hold it! So while it would appear that the pair barely escaped with their lives, in actuality, one of them had already been murdered inside the rocket? It says who? That's the angle the prosecution wants to push, correct? Oh, says him. I thought they said you got stabbed in the lounge. You got it. In fact, that's what I've been trying to say this whole time. If the victim had been alive, he would have been for sure tried to stop the bombing. How? Is there any chance Mr. Terran could have been killed before he boarded the rocket? They were both alive and well in the boarding time and embarked under their own power. According to what? Just because his finger touched it? Because you can have your finger touch something when you're dead. Have you ever played a Metal Gear game? Their hearts full of hopes and dreams of space. And then both of their hopes and dreams were dashed. If I may continue in my explanation, after the evacuation order was given, the defendant made his escape, carrying the victim to make it look like a rescue. But after the escape, one of the two was found stabbed to death. Athena, what are you thinking about this before I push in this last point? It's like he's trying to give us as little information as possible. Maybe Prosecutor Blackwell's got his tongue. Well, don't let that hold you back. Keep pressing until we get what we need. Right. 'Twas going to. I'm it. After the escape, one of the two was found stabbed to death. Hold it! And who was the first to find the victim? Actually, there were two of them. The Space Center director, Yuri, and Detective Candace Arm. Oh dear. One of them was a detective who had expertise in disarming bombs. Yep, Detective Arm specializes in bombings, you see. She and the director were ordering the evacuation following the explosions. Could have sworn that was you. You said you were guiding it, I guess. They were also worried about the astronauts, so they hurried over to the boarding lounge. That's when they discovered the victim, along with the defendant. Two witnesses, huh? And one of them's a detective. I doubt either one would have anything to say that would help me. I think that pretty much covers the details of this case. That's what I was figuring would happen. Only the victim and the defendant were on the launch pad when the former was killed. If this is the truth, then only Mr. Saba could have carried out this crime. What little I could get at him only hurt my case. I don't think that's true. This seems like it's going to be extremely useful. Has this Yuri been added? Oh, but Candace Arm has. A detective specialized in bomb cases was on detail at the Space Center, one of the first to find the body. Very important then that she was killed by Ted Tonate in the next case. That'll be important to remember. Justice Dono, foolish is the warrior who rushes headlong into battle. Preparation is an essential element of battle, so I advise you take a gander at this. Some security footage, no doubt. What is it? Footage from a security camera. As the two astronauts emerge from the bowels of Launchpad 1 corridor. Any attempt is recorded, right. The boarding lounge security camera captured their desperate escape. Well, the weird thing about this is that it looks like Clay is the one who's supporting our dude man, because he's the one carrying the thing that supposedly he was so desperate to keep equipped on him. Very interesting that this displays a clear 50 number, but we're not allowed to see this one. The boarding lounge security captured their desperate escape. Now I would like to direct your attention as to what the defendant is shouldering, which you can see is none other than the lifeless body of the victim. What? Then why would he bring the asteroids, huh? Order! Order, I say! This lines up exactly with what the prosecution has been asserting. I should have known Blackwell would have something like this ready. Security camera video added to the court record. Codswallop! Clearly Clay was carrying him. Or the asteroids were important. It's something we've got wrong anyway. Apollo? How exactly did they determine that Clay was already gone in that footage? Oh, I see what you mean. Whether Clay was still alive at that point is pretty crucial. I don't see a knife in him. Your Honor, please take another look at the footage. Isn't it possible that Mr. Terran was still alive here and that Mr. Starbuck was helping him? Why, I believe you're right. One man carrying the other to safety. What a beautiful expression of friendship. Silence. Perhaps that's what it looks like to a one-eyed hothead and a dotard. But it only makes sense if it's the victim's dead body. What do you mean? Fulbright, explain it to Justice Dono. You got it. Ready, kid? If the murder had occurred in the lounge, someone could have stopped it. Anyone could have entered the lounge, after all. But doing it while they were alone in the spaceship, that's a horse of a different color. Right? Where's the knife, then? I don't see a knife in this, do you? Plus, you have to be pretty goddamn strong to carry someone over one shoulder, an entire person, while you're in a spacesuit, carrying asteroid samples in the other hand. That would be ridiculously hard. I mean, I guess Clay wasn't especially a big guy. Objection! Objection! But you can't deny that there's a possibility the murder could have happened in the lounge. All that video shows is a man helping his fellow astronaut out. Silence. Well, if it even is a man under there. There's a lot of unknowns here of everyone under astronaut suits. Your assertion is based on emotion. It's based on your belief that Mr. Starbuck would surely help his own disciple. But you have no logical explanation as to why the victim could still be alive. Sure I do. He's carrying the asteroid samples. Unfortunately, Mr. Justice, the prosecution is right. Your argument is lacking in sound logic. I don't think we ever had a case go to shit in one episode before. This isn't a first. But it sounded perfectly logical to me. Well, Mr. Justice, if you have no further objections... Objection! I believe it's time to bring this cross-examination to a close. Objections? Well, hold it! Your Honor, the defense requests a little time to think and regroup. Given the facts, I'm not sure I see the need. What is it, Athena? It's just... there's something that's been bothering me. If it isn't the defense stalling for time, as always. Guy who lost every other case so far. Very well, I'm feeling generous. You may have a small measure of time. Yes! You have 5 seconds. 5 seconds! After that, I declare this cross-examination to be closed and a verdict to be rendered. Your boldness, raise your gavel high. It's time for a countdown. Oh! Ready? We don't have time. Spit it out, Athena. Only 3 more seconds. Look, I don't think the prosecution's explanation is very complete. Meaning there's something missing, like they conveniently left it unexplained. Something they didn't explain. You're right. I think I know what you're talking about. Your 5 seconds are up, Mr. Justice. Is there anything about the prosecution's argument that you'd like to rebut? Yes, Your Honor. Actually, there is. There is something that the prosecution has yet to make clear to this court. Well, if you put it that way, what does the prosecution has failed to explain? The motive for the murder, why the body was moved. Why the body was moved. That makes a lot more sense. But still, we want to point out the asteroids at some point. They have failed to explain why Mr. Starbuck would bother bringing the body back at all. If the defendant wanted to kill the victim, why didn't he just leave his body in the rocket? Why go through the trouble of bringing him all the way back to the boarding lounge? Oh, that's true. I don't think we've heard the prosecution's thoughts on that yet. That's because they have none, Your Honor. After all, how does one explain something so illogical? Athena, Apollo, I don't know that I'd go that far. They probably got some explanation. It's probably just a lame one, but burden of proof lies on us. Next time on Apollo at Ace Attorney Dual Destinies. It's a shame we didn't get too much farther into that. I was really hoping to get one good objection in before that, but we've got a lot of interesting things now, and obviously it's very weird that why would our man's Starbuck bring back the asteroids, huh? And riddle me that. Plus, there's a very clear 2 outlined on the floor here, which is probably interesting. Probably important, rather. I suppose that just refers to... No, that doesn't make any sense. Why would Launchpad 1 lead to the lounge with a 2 on the ground? If it's Launchpad 1 on the 3rd floor, there's no 2 involved. What are you playing at? Anyway, that's all for now. Next video on the channel is going to be some more of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, so look on out for that. Coming at you real soon. Thank you so very much for coming around. Hopefully I will see you around. Admiral's going to be out of here now. Peace! Adhering to conventional physics will slow down the young gatherer in his quest for mushrooms. No, the bug is most certainly gone now, but it's easier to catch the ones that come out of the grass. So we'll have time to do that. No 2 ways about it. This grass isn't very long. Let's explore the rest of this place anyway, because I only looked around